warm welcome and a happy Easter to all of you. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. And because of that, I have some very good news to share with you today. Although I also have some bad news. And I'll start with the bad news. The bad news I think you already are aware of, and that is that we are not going to have a spectacular Easter celebration in our sanctuary at Our Savior's this year. But I have good news that might be even better news. And it's the possibility that I think is a possibility for us all, to have an Easter celebration this year that will be even more spectacular than any as we have it in the Cathedral of God's springtime. And the glory and the resurrection power and the beauty of God that's on display there. But it's more than that. I have three ingredients in my recipe for having a spectacular Easter all through the year, in fact. And those three ingredients are this. The first is trusting. The second is walking. And the third is reading. And that's what I want to share with you this morning. First ingredient in a really spectacular springtime of Easter celebration is trusting in the pattern of God that is a death and resurrection pattern, a pattern of continual giving of good and a continual letting go of what is not good or what we can let go of in order to receive something new that I want to lift up for you. The pattern is known by God's Old Testament people. And let's look at that first. This pattern of in and out, of receiving and letting go, of resurrection and death, followed by resurrection again. The Old Testament people knew it well. It's recorded for us in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, where we hear this. There are times for everything in God's design for life. There are times for birth, there are times for death. There are times for planting and pulling up. There is time for joy. There are times for sorrow. Times to receive, times to let go. Times for dancing, times for mourning, and so on it goes. This pattern of God that good is always coming, and in the coming of new goods, there also is the need for us to let go, almost every time, of something that may be good or bad, but we need to let it go in order to have room to receive the next of God's gifts that in a circular way moving upward makes life better and richer and deeper as we move through each stage of our living. That's what we need to trust in. It's not only that Jesus saves us from the darkness of our sin and his separation, but he does it in a process of continual ups and downs, good and bad, through which he keeps making life richer and richer for each of us. The epitome of that is very simple, and we can experience by just doing a brief life review of the in and outs of each stage of the life that we have been living through. Each stage of letting go in order to receive more of the goodness of God's life. So I invite you to do a brief life review with this pattern of death and resurrection in and out, in the center of your thinking as you simply listen to each stage of the life that you've lived and picture the richness and the goodness of each stage, but the difference between them and the need to let go, to have a death experience of letting go of what seems good, but it's in order to be blessed in even richer ways. Breathe in and out. And on each in, picture the taking in of this new stage and the letting go when you move to the next. Moving through life means first we are infants and we take in the goodness of being taken care of. But then we let it go to move to childhood and being a toddler who learns to walk and to run and to talk. But we need to let it go. And it feels like dying, to move into adolescence where we're more independent, and it's scary. But there's a goodness in the independence and the freedom and the growing up. But we need to let that go in order to move into being a young adult where we become more responsible. But then we let that go when we fall in love and are ready to let go of independence for a partnership with another whom makes life even better. There's more good coming. But then we let go of that one-on-one partnership in order to be parents and have children and expand ourselves in new and richer ways. But then, as we age, we let that go for the blessings and the new goodness of empty nesting, until finally we begin getting more frail and we move to the final stage of letting go at the door of death. And the greatest gift of all comes when what we thought of so many times with terror, the coming of death, when even our death becomes the best day of our entire lives. When we realize that what Jesus says is, it is true, that he has swallowed up death with victory, and it's simply a door to the best of everything that we've ever known, only better. For God's promise that good is always coming out of everything that seems like the end, he makes into a new beginning of life getting better and better. That is the pattern of death and resurrection that Jesus solidified for us in his own resurrection. And that's what we need to put our trust in order to have a celebration of Easter every day of our life, especially in springtime. But that's why I have two other ingredients that I can do real quickly, share real quickly. And that is the gifts that can come from walking. I encourage you all to get out and walk every day that you can, but with a special focus on, a looking for, the experiences of resurrection glory and the beauty and goodness that is God making himself known in his creative cathedral of creation. And to be there every day, to see what you can see and be in awe over what you experience of God's goodness and glory in creation. And then come home and share it around the table. What have you seen of God's beauty and goodness and resurrection power today? And then thirdly, reading. Reading two books that I would suggest. They're written in the notes that accompany this video. One is the book Imagine Heaven, which is the best account I found of resurrection accounts of God's glory in eternity. And the second book is, it's on your list, Richard Rohr's book of Falling Upward, which is what we've been talking about. Those three ingredients, I believe, will give us something better than an hour in our sanctuary. It will give us a springtime and a lifetime living in the wonder of the truth of what St. Paul says the essence of the good news. Christ is in you, and you are alive forever, and you share in the glory of God. May you enjoy it and share it, and have a good Easter all year. Amen.